Let me adjust my camera very quickly. Y'all know they always throw me for a loop here. All right, camera set. Mic check, mic check. Hold up. Let me make sure mic is hitting right. Check, check, check. All right, we're good to go. All right, so happy Friday to everybody. I see Big Bro Steve in the building. I saw Skeeg in the building. I'm seeing a whole bunch of people already in the building. Shout out to all y'all. We got a good show for y'all today. So for a lot, real quick, all right, we got a new. So for a lot of y'all that have been tapping into the show, y'all may have noticed that we've been getting a whole lot of Nick Fuentes fans. A whole lot of people are interested in Nick Fuentes. And I've been seeing a lot of the comments. I've been seeing a lot of y'all comments. Y'all keep saying like, yo, who's this random black guy in the corner? Like, who's this guy? Like, I guess we can play Nick Fuentes videos on YouTube as long as there's a black guy sitting in the corner. So I heard all that noise, and I just want to thank y'all. I want to thank y'all for inspiring me. And as I show y'all my art that you inspired, as I let you hear my art that you inspired, please make sure that you like, and subscribe. Do all that good stuff. Send this to a friend, tell a friend to tell another friend. I actually got to go on my other page and make sure that I put the post up. But yeah, make sure that you spread the word. So we're going to talk about a few different topics today. We got a few different topics to talk about today. We're going to be talking about Nick. He did a good show and he covered a lot of different topics. He covered, it was mainly about Epstein and these different wars that we may be getting into with Venezuela. But what he also covered was a lot of intricacies within why the Epstein files is going the way that it's going, which may surprise a lot of people. And the reason why, one of the reasons why I like, or why I've liked covering Nick lately, and I think what a lot of people may be surprised of, and actually what I'm seeing in the comments when I see a whole lot of Nick Fuentes fans go back and look at some of our old conversations, is that a lot of people, they're thinking that, Nick is getting all these new black people to wake up and all this stuff. Bro, we've been these are the conversations we've been having first and foremost. All right, so shout out to Nick. He was doing it on his side. We've been having these conversations. So this is not a Nick Fuentes awakening. This is there's somebody else that's pushing some similar things that we discuss and has some perspectives that are very similar to us. So let's dive into it. Why do they try to make this such a polarizing person that I'm supposed to hate? Why is this person somebody that we're supposed to fear? All these different things. And they're saying very similar things to what we're saying. They're asking very similar questions to what we're asking. So this is why we appreciate it. And without further ado, listen to my art. I'm going to post on here real quick, and then we'll get right into the videos. This is going to be funny for y'all. Hold on. Oh, it's not working? Stop playing. Hold on. TB, GI, TC.
It's the black guy in the corner, but they'd rather see a nigga on the corner. They say I'm stealing Nick's clips like I'm stealing Nick's.
All right, I forgot I didn't have the edited version.
Not knowing that I hit him first week for the lick. I said, Nick, I could post here while you post there. Run the money up, then I send it over there. Let's figure out a split that's honorable and fair. Tell me where you trying to take it, bro. I'll meet you there. 1600 Penn, Watch DC. Swear I saw the vision riding through the DMV. I envision prayers, but I could do VP, Hillbilly, Elegy. Fuck, I gotta like JD. Shout out my cheat code. Dave and Karen raised me and my big bro, a nuclear family.
And they don't like that. Strong fathers in the crib, BLM for that. LBJ society created all that. Victim of mentality, I can't embrace that. And everything they taught in school, assume it's all cap. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Everything I said I am that. Ain't no introduction, just some fun facts. In case you were wondering, I am that.
I know you heard me hit it 3 times for Dr. Umar. Shout out to Umar, man. We ain't kicking nobody when they down. And shout out to everybody that continues to show love, support, appreciating the message. All right. Let's get to the show, man. Let's get to the show. Yo, I'm telling y'all, yo, confidence is a mug, man. Confidence is something, yo. When you wake up every day, you know what confidence gives you? It gives you the ability to just wake up and be free. If I wake up today and I feel like, matter of fact, I don't feel like, and I am a rapper, then I'm gonna rap. If y'all keep saying like, yo, who's this random black guy in the corner? Yeah, we're gonna go with that. I'll tell you exactly who it is. We're gonna, yo, this is how I see life. This is why I can never embrace victimhood. This is why I can never embrace victimhood, because if you just flip it, then you use it to your advantage. And there's so much value in whether the people are criticizing me saying that who's the black guy in the corner, or they're showing love. It doesn't matter. I receive it all the same. Like, oh, that's dope. Like, they noticing me. Like, all right, let's see if I can play on this. Let's clown, let's laugh, let's joke. It's all good. This is what confidence gives you the freedom to do. A lot of people probably want to rap. A lot of people probably want to sing, but y'all are probably scared of what other people are going to say, how other people are going to react. I don't care. This is the same energy that I exhibit every day on this show. It is what it is. I'm living in my truth. I'm living in purpose. I feel free. I feel confident. Like, I'm ready to go. So without further ado, let's get to this Nick video. So what we're going to do today is we're going to start with a Nick video, and then we're going to get to this RFK Jr. So the Nick video, we're probably going to go for about an hour, try to keep it there. The RFK Jr. video, where he's going through the Senate hearing, that's going to take a little bit of time. And then we may have this Tucker Carlson video that kind of interesting. We're either going to go Tucker or we're going to go Grant Cardone. But the Nick, y'all know how we do. Sometimes we only get through 2 videos. So without further ado, let me just get to the video. Let me go sit in the corner real quick. Let me go chill in the corner, all right? I'll be in the corner. We gonna cook, and make sure, Maya said, make sure y'all like and subscribe. So make sure y'all like and subscribe. And Maya said, confidence gives you the freedom to create in all forms, and we are here on earth to create. I'm a creator. We're all creators, all right? So let's create. Let's never consume more than we create. All right, let's get to it.
You see this on Twitter today? Serious stuff, guys. Oh, yes. After a week of, this is being reported for the past week, 2 weeks, highly anticipated, the Trump administration was moving towards this historic renaming of our Department of Defense. That's the Pentagon. The DOD manages all the branches of the military, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Space Force, etc. The Pentagon. The Trump administration officially renames the Department of Defense to the Department of War. Ooh, because as Trump says, we're not just on defense, we're also on offense. Sounds a lot cooler. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm just getting so sick of the slop, man. I'm done with the slop. Is that all this administration can do? It seems like this administration does 2 things. It renames existing things like the Gulf of Mexico, like the Persian Gulf, like military bases, like the Pentagon. It renames things, and it polices anti-Semitism. You can't get your FEMA rescue money. You can't get your Harvard grants and loans. You can't get citizenship or a visa in America. Is that all this administration can do? We were promised revolutionary change. We were promised vengeance. We were promised a golden age. And what we're getting is renaming things, and like the ADL is on steroids. The ADL is taking steroids. They're looks maxing. That's all this administration seems to do. Cracker Barrel, who could forget? I mean, think about it. That's all this administration does. They came in, they renamed the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Oh, they renamed the Persian Gulf to the Arabian Gulf. They should have named it to the Gulf of Israel, right? change the names of the military bases back to Fort Bragg. Take that. And now this, they took the Cracker Barrel logo, brought it back to the original. Now we're changing the Department of Defense to the Department of War. And look, if the Trump administration was actually doing things, this would be a cool bonus. And maybe you could make a defense for it. No pun intended. Maybe there's a case to be made for this. But if you're not doing anything, like take a look around. The deportation's not happening. The legal immigration will continue. 600,000 Chinese students. War in Ukraine is, if anything, it's getting worse. We do this every night. I mean, you get it. The state of this administration, it's not making as much progress as it needs to be. It's way behind. And yet, every so often, they do these things, the military parade, Cracker Barrel logo, stuff like this, and it feels like it's very intentional, and it feels like it's designed basically to distract us. These are amusements. These are, it feels like, diversions. It is a signal, but signifying nothing. It is meant to signal that something has transformed, something essential about America is changing. This is a new country. We take bodies of water. We're fighting wars now. It's supposed to signal an essential underlying change, but there is no such underlying change. Everything seems to be exactly the same. Take, for example, Harmeet Dillon. She's heading up the Civil Rights Division in the DOJ. She's an Indian American. She did that tribute to Waheguru at the RNC last year. That's a Hindu, Sikh, Indian god. She's the head of the Civil Rights Division of the DOJ. At the National Conservatism Conference this week, she speaks before what is supposed to be our based nationalist conservatives that are using state power to just do things. And she spoke to this crowd of what are supposed to be our allies and says that the Democrats are bringing their Klan robes and trying to stop us from enforcing equal opportunity. This is a Sikh Indian woman running the Civil Rights Division in the DOJ, and she's using the Dinesh D'Souza argument, the Democrats are the real Klansmen fighting for equal opportunity in Trump's DOJ. You got Marco Rubio as the Secretary of State. Guy is a neocon. And what are we doing? We are prolonging and extending Joe Biden's Ukraine policy, John Bolton's Venezuela policy, Benjamin Netanyahu's Iran policy. And so this is where you look at what is purported to be a signal of deep change on the exterior. The Cracker Barrel logo will stay the same. Return to tradition. Modern logos are bad. And the Trump's America, we're going to a Creed concert and then to Cracker Barrel with the old logo. And we have the Department of War because we just do things. It's like the old days, but it isn't. But in every way, it is not. There is no change.
All right, so, and just giving y'all a heads up, y'all know what I do. On the live show, I interrupt more. On the other videos that we'll be putting out, I let Nick play through, and then I comment at the end. But the live show, we do what we do, all right? We get interactive. So when I first heard him say about the Department of War and Trump changing it from the Department of Defense to the Department of War, the first thing that came to mind was, this is demonic. This is demonic. Y'all know how I feel about war. I just don't think war solves anything. And Nick and I disagree on that. Nick thinks that war is necessary, that there's always going to need armed conflict to resolve problems between countries. I disagree. I think we end up in the very same place. When you look at Ukraine and Ukraine and Russia, every time they go to the negotiation table, they end up talking about this very same things that they were talking about before the conflict turned violent, but just more and more people are dying. They're throwaways. They're pawns on the chessboard. They're not valued. They're not valued. So when I see this, what comes to mind is the demonic nature of it. Like, why are we pushing now to go on the offensive? And for all this, when we talk about Israel and who's Trump being influenced by, because clearly Trump is being influenced by, for all the reasons that Nick just named, as far as him saying all these things on the campaign trail, but then going a completely different direction, turning off all the loyal people that were rocking with him because of all the promises he made, but instead going with the neocons and doing the same thing that the establishment government has been doing. And now he goes from Department of Defense to Department of War. It sounds like Bibi Netanyahu. What did we just play the other day when Bibi Netanyahu, what's the mindset of Bibi Netanyahu in Israel? Well, we hit them before giving them even the chance to respond to us, because we'll never be in the same position that we've been in before when it comes to wars, and we'll never have another Holocaust. So therefore, that justifies us always striking first. This is the energy that Trump is giving. So initially, I told y'all that my thought was this is demonic. But then I started thinking about the military parade that just happened with China that Trump wasn't invited to. And then I started thinking about our military parade. And Nick's going to bring up some stuff clowning it, how embarrassing it was. But when you think about it, all this is just posturing. This is everybody just taking their shirt off before they fight and doing all this, like pumping their chest out. So initially I was thinking it's demonic. Now I just think it's extremely goofy. It's going to cause lives to be lost. It's definitely going to cause lives to be lost. We're going to talk about that. But this entire thing is just goofy to me. Changing all these names, Department of Defense to Department of War, and there's still demonic aspects to it. But it's led by the goofiness. It's just going to cause demonic actions. Like, what? We're going on the offensive? Let me ask y'all a question. What does it look like? What does it look like to go on the offense? I'm sorry, going on the offensive. What does it look like to go on the offensive when it comes to war? In my opinion, what it looks like is Israel-Palestine. Now, people will say that's the defensive. Okay, cool. I guess that's based on how and when you determine when that actual war started. But what it looks like is that, but going on the super offensive, as to say, like, we don't even care. We'll make up whatever reason we need to strike you. We'll make up whatever reason we need to go to war with you. Trump was supposed to be the candidate that ended wars. The reason why I voted for him, because I thought that he was the best candidate to end wars. And he's doing something totally different, and we have to call it out. Let's keep going. And hold on, I just got a text to shout out my Johnny in the comments. So where's Johnny? Shout out to Johnny Stoffel. He wrote, Cracker Barrel was such a flat controversy. People only remembered Cracker Barrel existed due to the change. That's funny. That's funny. All right, so I got the call from the higher ups to shout out Johnny. So shout out Johnny. Let's get back to the video.
And I've used this comparison before. Trump is vaporware. And it's almost a perfect comparison, because when Trump got into office in 2016, the big cultural wave on social media was vaporwave. It was Macintosh Plus, it was vaporwave music, the Tron grid, the rising sun. This was the aesthetic. It was the vaporwave 80s aesthetic. And what is vaporware? It is a product that's advertised that never actually arrives. That's what vaporware is. It's like vapor. And that's what vaporwave represented. And that's really what the Trump administration is. It's a simulacrum. It's vapor. It's not real. It's a representation of something that isn't or was never real. And I'm just tired of being insulted. At this point, that's all it is insulting. Department of War? Why don't you end the wars or win a war? Something. You think about what it represents. The Department of Defense is our military. We're changing it to the Department of War. But the policies of the Department of Defense, the posture of the DOD has not changed at all. If the promise of Trump in 2016 was to put America first and end these interventions and bring the troops home, that hasn't happened at all. NATO is bigger than it was 10 years ago. By getting all these other countries to pay their fair share, we are more entrenched in NATO than ever. The Middle East, we're on the cusp of another war, this time with Iran. We now have a permanent presence in Syria, perhaps a permanent presence in Azerbaijan and Armenia. We're still in Iraq. And in Latin America, seems like we're just getting started on yet another war. So it's like that America first non-intervention thing did not happen. At the same time, Trump promised we'd rebuild the military. We're going to have victories again. We haven't had one of those either. Can't win the war in Ukraine. Can't defeat the Houthis. Apparently did not destroy Iran's nuclear program. The military is an embarrassment. Look at our military parade this summer. Look at China's. In our military parade, we had a guy carrying a drone above his head like it was a paper airplane. Like it was a Lego fighter jet or something. China's military parade, did you see it? Huge, impressive drones, tanks, synchronization, complex formations. We had a guy walking down the street holding up a drone like this. That's our rebuilt military. So just stop insulting. Either do something and stop, and then you can make the name changes, or don't. Now, don't call it the Department of War. Nothing has changed there. It's the same nonsense as before. You can change the name, and probably the next administration, if it's Democrat, they'll change it right back. That's the same thing that happened in the first administration. So anyway, I saw that today, and I'm just like, I'm out of patience with this kind of stuff. And how many think pieces are we going to get from I Am 1776, from Passage Press, all these jagoffs from Claremont Institute? How many think pieces are we going to get talking about the significance of changing the name to the Department of War? It signals a return to the Bronze Age. It signals a return to a time of
Goofy
testosterone when our ancestors smoked cigarettes and laughed when communists told them. Like, yeah, bro, it's the same nonsense. We're fighting. It's a Department of Wars for Israel. It's a Department of Wars for India and Israel. Who cares? They changed the name. It's actually not that deep. Anyway, but that's that. I do want to move on. I want to get into our news for the night. Our first story, we're going to talk all about the situation with Jeffrey Epstein. And like I said, this Epstein scandal is entering its third month, which is hard to believe. It all started, as you know, in the beginning of July when the DOJ put out a memo that said that basically the Epstein investigation is over. And by that, they mean that there will be no further disclosures, no more declassifications, no more documents. There will also be no third parties that will be investigated. So if you thought that any of these elite people that were clearly involved in this sex trafficking ring, if you thought they would be held accountable or they would face justice, the DOJ said there are no other investigations. Case closed. Additionally, they denied the nature of the Epstein scandal itself. They said there is no blacklist, or rather a black book, a list of clients. They said there was no sex trafficking ring. So they're basically denying the essence of the scandal itself and the basis of the initial charges almost 20 years ago. It's now been 2 full months since that took place, just under 2 months, entering the third month, and the Trump administration has a major problem. Back in July and August, they thought that if they just played for time, that eventually the summer recess would happen in Congress and other events would happen in the news, and eventually everybody would just forget about it. If Congress went home for the summer recess, they could not force a disclosure on the documents. And without pressure from Congress and with other things taking place in the news media, the administration thought this would just blow over. But now Congress is back in session. They're back from the summer recess, and as promised, this was said by Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna before they left, they would be right back in D.C. when it was finished, pushing again for disclosure on the Epstein files. And they are. And so here we are. It's September. We're in the fall. We're in the home stretch, weeks away from another funding appropriations deadline. And Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna are attempting to use a procedural measure inside the House of Representatives to force a vote on the floor of the House on the DOJ opening up and disclosing everything in the Epstein investigation.
Very quickly, do y'all think that the Epstein files are, what's the reason why, you guys throw in the chat, what's the reason why you think the Epstein files are being covered up? Do you think it's something with Trump, or do you think it's something with Israel, or do you think it's something totally separate? Do you think it shows ties from Jeffrey Epstein having some type of relationship with Mossad, Israeli intelligence? Do you think somebody just accused Trump, or they have something on Trump on there? What do y'all think it is? Like, write that in the chat. And y'all be a little chill. Come on, y'all be a little chill in the chat, man. Y'all don't got to be cutting off everybody's head. Obviously, get off your points, but my mom's looking at this. All right, let's keep going.
This is a story about that from the New York Times. It says, quote, with the Capitol towering behind them, several women who said they had been among Jeffrey Epstein's victims shared harrowing stories of sexual abuse, pleading with members of Congress to demand the Trump administration release all of its investigative files in the case. Lawmakers in both parties stood behind them, vowing to keep the pressure on for the disclosures. None of it appeared to be enough to outweigh the pressure from Mr. Trump and Republican leaders, who moved quickly to squelch legislation that would require the DOJ to completely release what it uncovered about Epstein. Even as Mr. Epstein's accusers spoke at the Capitol, some of them growing emotional as they recounted their experiences, Mr. Trump at the White House dismissed the effort to get more files released as a Democrat hoax that never ends. So you've got the victims crying on the lawn of the Capitol. Trump is asked about it in the Oval Office. He says, that's a hoax. Which is, as you can recall, this is doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on his strategy thus far, which is to pretend this is just not real. But it goes on, it says, Mr. Massie and Mr. Khanna's bill, which would require the DOJ to produce all its files about the Epstein investigation within 30 days, remains stalled. To force a floor vote on it, they need the majority of the House, or 218 members, to sign a so-called discharge petition. That's the procedural measure. With all 212 Democrats expected to sign, that means 6 Republicans are needed to move forward. As of Wednesday evening, the number of GOP signers was frozen at 4, and that includes Thomas Massie, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and Nancy Mace. The White House, for its part, has made its opposition to Massie's bill clear. Mr. Trump is known to target Republican lawmakers he sees as obstacles to his agenda. An official who described the Trump administration's thinking on the condition of anonymity said that signing the petition would be viewed as a very hostile act to the administration. So here we are. It is September. We're 8 months into this Trump administration. Remember, this is what we were promised. It's an insane level of gaslighting to pretend like this is some unreasonable request that Thomas Massie came up with, or that some unreasonable faction of the base came up with. We woke up on the wrong side of the bed, and us ingrates decided to be so unreasonable and so ungrateful and intractable that we're demanding something from the Trump administration that was never promised or never feasible or anything like that. Well, let's recall the Trump administration, rather the Trump campaign, promised throughout 2024 that we would get transparency on all these things. On 9/11, on JFK, on other assassinations, and on the Epstein files. He was asked about it repeatedly, and he said that he would release the files.
Very quickly. Sometimes I forget that it was also supposed to release, that he was also supposed to release the JFK and 9/11. Now, we've all heard the rumors and the conspiracy theories as far as who was involved in those things. if Trump is trying to not show us that he's being influenced by Israel, just being totally honest, I got to shoot it to y'all straight, then he's doing a bad job. And when you try to cover things up, people go like, it's like whatever you're trying to cover up, now I want to look under that. Now I want to look into that. Now I'm entertaining all of the other conspiracies that are associated with this because you guys are going to all these lengths to hide this. You're insulting our intelligence to the point where it's like, oh yeah, it's got to be something with Israel, because you're insulting my intelligence to think that I'm just like all of a sudden gonna forget the fact that you were the person pushing this. Your team was the one that was pushing the Epstein files. Y'all put all this pressure on Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I was on that side with y'all. I was pushing. I was with it. I have to take accountability in that as well. You put that out there. We were putting all this pressure on Joe Biden and Kamala, and now when you all get the ball, y'all act as if you're completely oblivious to those things.
Moreover, it was his son, Don Jr. It was J.D. Vance, his vice president. It was many of the influencers on the GOP payroll who for 4 years, this was their grift. Do you remember Don Jr. went to Turning Point USA, the president's son, who was involved in selecting the vice presidential nominee, who was involved in running the campaign? Don Jr. at Turning Point said, oh, I'm on every FBI list. They want me so bad. I'm such an outlaw. He said, I'm on every list except the Epstein list. I wonder who's on there. I wonder why they won't show it to us. They created this.
Do y'all remember the Don Jr.? If not, I got it for you.
Guy who's there. He's magically then, within hours of being, off of suicide watch, the 2 cameras that are on him happen to go out. The 2 guards just happen to... Man, it seems like a lot of coincidence. They try to make Epstein, they tried to make it about Trump. They don't talk about like the 45 times, Clinton's at the island with him they say, well, he met Trump at a cocktail party one time. Look, we got you. I'm like,
didn't your dad boot him out of the
he was literally thrown out of Mar-a-Lago because of some of the rumors and all of this stuff. So, and that's the problem. The news cycle, whether it's Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's person, like she went to jail for 25 years for apparently trafficking children to nobody because we won't see those lists and there's no consequence. It's like, you're going after Trump, but this stuff's not an issue. You put someone in jail for 25 years for apparently doing nothing because no one else partook. But like, well, Trump knew him. I'm like, you know how Trump's not involved? Because if his name was on that list, it would have leaked already.
For sure. 100%.
They did the redacted list and there'd be one name, unredacted.
Holy
Trump.
shit.
So, but yeah, dude, crazy times. I am on every list except the Epstein list. We haven't heard anything about that one in a while. I'm fine with all the other lists. As long as I'm not on the Epstein list, we're good, right? Speaking of which, how is it that my father can be convicted of 34 crimes, but no one on Epstein's list has even been brought to light? I'm trying to figure out how that's possible, right, folks? It's almost like they're trying to protect those pedophiles for some reason. I can't imagine why, right? We're not allowed to say they're groomers, but when they act a lot like groomers, sort of tells you everything you need to know, right?
They played this up. They leaned into it for the better part of 4 or 5 years. That Epstein's a pedophile. He's on the island. He's running Lolita Express with the Clintons and all these people. They played this up. They leaned into it. They created this narrative. They promised transparency. They said it'd be the most transparent administration in history. And then they even went so far, once elected and inaugurated, to create this spectacle as though they were following through. Am I the only one that remembers this? They invited all the influencers to the White House, distributed binders that said Epstein files. That was ran out of the White House press office with the DOJ, and they held it up for the photo op. Look, most transparent administration ever. And it didn't take long. It took, I think, hours for the people that received the binders to upload them to social media. People read through them and said, there's no disclosure here. Where's the rest? And after ignoring that request for 5 months, the DOJ said, case closed, pack it up, that's it, it's over. And then within days shifted to, if you still want it, you're a traitor. If you still want it, you're a Democrat, you're an idiot. I don't want your support. This is a hoax. That's not real. You're an ingrate. You should be a Democrat. And here's the thing. This reveals the conceit of the Republican Party. Don't you get it? Don't you understand? This is the whole conceit of the GOP. The people that actually run this party, the people that are running this government, they're not like you and I. They don't care about the things you and I care about. And they also have no scruples about lying to you. Do you get it? For 4 years, they fed you all this crap about vaccines, about seed oils, about CRT and BLM, about this, about the Epstein files. And then they get into office, and what do? Who is Trump meeting with today? Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg. Ooh, that's gotta hurt. What happened? I thought MAGA, QAnon, the Proud Boys, the Trump supporters, the J6ers, they were being censored on Facebook and Instagram. Trump himself was banned on Facebook and Instagram. And for 4 years, they grifted, complaining about censorship on Facebook and Instagram. Now that Trump is president, he's dining with Mark Zuckerberg.
All right, so let's real quick, just on the whole Bill Gates thing. The Bill Gates thing, Bill Gates to me is one of the weirdest people on the planet. Every time I hear him talking, he's talking about depopulation. And if y'all remember, during the pandemic, before it was Fauci on TV the entire time, all I saw was Bill Gates. And I'm sitting here like, why is Bill Gates talking about vaccines? Like, I don't understand the connection. This is not his background. They do any and everything to critique RFK Jr. and his credibility when it comes to giving information on health. But when it comes to Bill Gates, the guy that constantly talks about depopulation, who's buying up all the farmland, we just sit back and listen to him talk about what we should do to become healthier. So I looked up why they were meeting, and apparently they met late August 2025, and the meeting, reported by NBC News and others, focused on the importance of U.S. global health programs and medical research. U.S. global health programs and medical research. And then they also had dinner last night, but that was more with the tech, like that was a whole tech thing, whatever. But the fact that they're talking about the importance of U.S. global health programs and medical research, who is Bill Gates when it comes to this? He's buying up all the farmland, like I said. He's the reason why I no longer eat Beyond Meat. Like, why is Bill Gates involved in any of this?
Joking with him. Mark Zuckerberg was at the inauguration, all the rest. For 4 years, all these grifters, all these MAGA people grifted off of the anti-vaccine thing. Raised money, played that up, anti-vax, it's a bioweapon, etc. Now Trump is seated next to Bill Gates and says that they're going to work together on all these novel solutions and so on. And then you have the Epstein files. For 4 years, they leaned into, as a grift, the Epstein files, the Epstein disclosures. There's a pedophile conspiracy. There's a satanic pedophile conspiracy. Then they get into office and they turn around and bury it harder than Biden did. They do this with everything. Have you realized this by now? And you have to realize that this is a feature, not a bug. A lot of people's concept, their mental model for how this works is that we elect these candidates and they're fighting so hard, and we're fighting every day, and you got to take what you can get. And hey, man, it's only been a few months. They're trying really hard. And when the 4 years are up and they didn't deliver, well, we got to get them next time. And in reality, that's just not what's happening. In reality, the Republicans, they know they're lying to you. They know that they're lying to you. They think that you're idiots. They think that we're idiots. And they know what we care about, and they know what we talk about, and they shamelessly pander, shamelessly during the election. And it's like a competition to see who could be more crazy, who could be more extreme. The nativist rhetoric, the conspiracy rhetoric, all this kind of stuff. Each one-upping the next. And then they know when they get into office, they don't care about that stuff. Then they celebrate. We're in. We're good. We don't need your vote. Who cares about the Haitians in Springfield, Ohio? Who cares about the vaccines now? Who cares about the Epstein files? Try to focus, guys. We're trying to cut corporate tax cuts. Who cares about that? This is what they do with everything. And so inside of the Epstein story, yes, obviously, the Epstein files matter in themselves. They tell us other things. But this is a big conceit that is demonstrated by the whole thing. And it's incredible to witness how the narrative goes from, we will be more transparent than any administration. Here it is, guys. Here's your Epstein files. Wait, you still care about that? You're hostile to the administration. You need to switch parties. What are you, a Democrat? Why do you still care about this? And all the influencers follow suit. It proceeds from the top. The hypocrisy, the about face comes from Trump. And it trickles down and proceeds from the rest. And they go from 6 months ago, all right, everybody, promises made, promises kept. Here's your files. Here's what we promised and we delivered. 6 months later, oh, you actually wanted those files? You're stupid. I don't even want your support. You need to become a Democrat already. You still care about that? That doesn't even matter. And if you think it does, well, you're useless and an idiot, and we need to focus on other stuff. And that's Trump, and that's Pam Bondi, and it proceeds all the way down through the asshole Cernoviches, Posobics, the cat turds, the DC Dranos, all these cock-sucking influencers that are paid to lie, all these whores. And that's what they are. How did Mike Cernovich get so obscenely wealthy? Anybody know? Mike Cernovich went from a obscure pickup artist, blogger, who was writing about having sex with trannies in Thailand, chemically salty taste of their penises. That's in his blog. How did he go from that to political operator? Who paid him all this money? His patrons. He gets on his knees. He opens up his mouth. They give him the cash. And he says whatever they want him to say. And then he gets to walk around like he's the man. You have no fans. If you did a live stream, you couldn't get 300 viewers. You have no fans. You're a whore for money. Same with Jack Posobiec. Jack Posobiec 10 years ago was sucking up to Richard Spencer. I'm old enough to remember. Jack Posobiec was begging Richard Spencer to hang out with him. Hey, Richard, I'm really based. 1488, brother, I'm really based. What do you think about Harold Covington? I'm old enough to remember that. And then what happened? Oh, he took his honeymoon in Israel. He took his honeymoon in Israel, and then everybody forgot that he was obsessed with Harold Covington, trying to be Richard Spencer's best friend, and tweeting 1488 all the time. And he was also in naval intelligence. Interesting. Speaks foreign languages, sort of interesting guy. And these people are paid to lie about all this kind of stuff. And you think they're on your side. This administration's on your side. This is what I want to destroy in your mind. If I achieve nothing else, I want radical right-wingers, I want white people, I want Christian nationalists to stop using the word we. When you talk about Trump, when you talk about the GOP, we have this tendency to identify with the Republican Party. Why? People say, we need to win this election. We need to do this. We. There is no we. It is not we. We are not getting shit. They are getting paid. They are getting paid to promote the GOP. They, the politicians, are getting the privileges of being in office. They are getting favors dispensed and kickbacks. They won. You, we, I did not get anything, did not get shit.
This is like this whole sports thing. The whole fanatics, right? Fanatics, fans of sports teams. We won the Super Bowl. No, you have to go work on Monday. You did not win the Super Bowl. You have to go to work on Monday and do the very same thing that it reminds me of the whole LeBron James, when LeBron James and them lost. Real quick. When LeBron James, they lost in Miami to Dallas Mavericks. He got on TV. This is when I kind of started liking LeBron. When he said, I got all these haters, who act as if they beat me, is act like if they're on the Dallas Mavericks, they still got to go back home and wake up tomorrow morning to the same life that they woke up to today. And I just was like, oh, is he talking about me? Yo, there is no we. Just because you like somebody, stop associating yourself as the we. Just because they win, just because something lines their pockets, that does not mean it's a win for us or for you. This is the entire mindset. This is what I couldn't stand about the Democratic Party and the liberals, which is why I left them. So I'm not bringing that same energy now to Donald Trump. I don't have any ties with any of these people. They have no allegiance to me. I have no ties to them. I'm supposed to use them. They are my agent. I do not work for them. They are supposed to work for us. But we've gotten it backwards because we've become such fanatics of these people. Shout out to my pops with sending the super chat.
Unemployment is way higher. The job market sucks than they're letting on. And whereas the Biden administration was trying to forgive student loans and wipe medical debt from your credit score, things that actually help you, this administration's not doing any of that. Not doing any of that. They extended the corporate tax cut. It's like, so we don't get anything when they win. The Democrats and the Republicans are they. They, the Democrats, they, the Republicans, they take turns in office. Obviously, yes, the Republicans have better policies than the Democrats, but not by much. And it's a lot closer than you might think. And this Epstein thing is just the biggest example. They promised you, and they think about like the culture they created around this for 5 years. The way they hammed up this Epstein thing. Epstein, a pedophile island, et cetera, et cetera. And then when it's finally time to produce, they turn and say, I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, you care about that? You're an idiot. Whoa, you're a Democrat. And it's like, wow. It's like they literally, it's like those TikToks. It's like a prank where you go through the drive-thru and they duck down and they come up and it's a completely different person. 5 years. We could not hear the end of the Epstein files. The second they get into office and people want them, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Oh, you care about that? Oh, get real. That's not actually affecting anybody. You care, that's a hoax. That was never real. If you still care about that, you should just switch parties already because that's not loyal. That's hostile. And they do this with everything. They did it with immigration. The second that Trump passed the big, beautiful bill, he did a rally and said, we're going to slow down the deportations for illegal immigrant farm workers. Everyone's you're not going to like it, but you'll understand. The insults keep coming.
They are literally doing the same things that they used to criticize the Democrats for doing. And I'm going to tell you what else. So for a lot of people, a whole lot of people, this is what I'm noticing. Like Trump, and just another area in which it seems like Trump is being influenced, and it just seems like it's Israel. Trump and a lot of y'all conservatives, especially maybe a lot of y'all Groypers, a lot of y'all Nick Fuentes fans, hear me out on this, hear me out. I hear the energy when it comes to black people. and this is actually one of the reasons why I bang with Nick. A lot of these conservatives, actually, I don't think this applies to the Groypers mostly. I think this is more just conservatives. Y'all hear me out. It's very easy to call out the black victimhood, right? The black victimhood. If y'all know, a lot of y'all are new to the show, I always call this out. I can't stand it. I can't stand it because I don't think it actually benefits any group to embrace victimhood. It's the least empowering thing that you can do. But a lot of conservatives are quick to call out black victimhood. A lot of conservatives have called out critical race theory, called out a lot of these principles with Black Lives Matter, and I've called them out. But when it comes to Israel, for a lot of it's like they took the energy of the Democratic Party and them pandering to victimhood when it comes to pandering to black people, pandering to women with the feminist movement, pandering to who they want from their supporters, right? Pandering to all those people, but they just redirected that energy into pandering for Israel and embracing Israeli victimhood. Oh, if you're a student over here going to college and you say something pro-Palestinian or you criticize Israel, we're sending you back to your home. That's not embracing Israeli victimhood. You can't even criticize a foreign government. You can't criticize another country if you're in America. But then you have absolutely no problem calling out the stuff from black Americans. We got to call a spade a spade. We got to call it out. It's corny. It's corny. All this victimhood is leading us in bad directions on both sides. The Democrats pander to who they pander to, and now the Republicans and Donald Trump are pandering to Israel, and we're seeing what all of that gets us, whether it's Epstein files, whether it's our involvement between Israel and Palestine, whether it's a bunch of different things, a lot of the things that we're talking about on this show. Let's keep going.
And anyway, I doubt they're going to get the votes to release these, because it's going to require 2 votes from the Republicans. And you know, these Republicans are being threatened. Now, the whole weight of this MAGA machine, which is just a monstrosity, how much money they've raised because of who they represent. The GOP represents now Wall Street, Silicon Valley, Israel. It's got a huge war chest, way bigger than the Democrats. And now what is that machine? What is it arrayed against now? Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie is one of the only congressmen, maybe the only Republican speaking out against Israel and saying that we should put America first.
Facts.
He's leading the charge on opposition to our intervention in the Middle East. He's leading the charge on Epstein. And now he's public enemy #1 of MAGA. And he is being persecuted by Susie Wiles, a fucking lobbyist. He is being persecuted by Lindsey Graham, who Trump endorsed for the 4th time or 3rd time. Think of this. Think of this. Obviously, something has gone wrong. You will not get the Epstein files, even though the Trump administration, it's their prerogative. It's their DOJ. They could do it tomorrow. They won't. They're fighting not to. They're fighting Thomas Massie. The never-Trumpers that took over MAGA world are turning the Death Star laser of Silicon Valley and Wall Street and Israel's money that powers the GOP to destroy Thomas Massie because he dared to say America first when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein and Israel. Something has gone terribly wrong. And that's why you're not going to get 2 more votes here. Where's Paul Gosar? Where is that fucking asshole? Huh? Where's Paul Gosar, the courageous hero? I don't know. Ask his wife. She knows. She runs his life. She runs his shit. Coward. Where's everybody else? Where's the MAGA caucus, huh? You have these freakazoids. Lauren Boebert, who's doing sexual stuff in the movie theater. Nancy Mace, who is a psycho. They're the only people that believe this stuff in the GOP. They're the only people that are actually true believers. Where are all these other 210 Republicans that it was so critical to go out and vote for in the last cycle? Where are they? It's no different than, do you remember in 2022 when at that time they said they were going to release the 45,000 hours of J6 Capitol footage? Remember that whole debacle? Remember when all the 2000 January 6 patriots were languishing in prison and there was 45,000 hours of footage from Capitol Hill security cameras that could have exonerated them? We were promised that in the midterms then, and they didn't deliver. I shouldn't say they didn't deliver, because they did deliver the footage to somebody. Anybody remember?
Anybody?
Does anybody remember who those 45,000 hours of Capitol Hill footage were delivered to? One person got them. One person was able to review them. Does anybody remember who it was? Tucker Carlson. That whole episode? Oh, no, I totally forgot. Oh, no, I forgot. That's what they do every time. That's what they count on. In 2022, we're going to release those 45,000 hours of footage. We're going to get to the bottom of the Fedsurrection. We're going to get to the bottom of this conspiracy. Fedsurrection. We're going to get to the bottom of it. When we take the House, we're going to subpoena the government and get the footage. They didn't. Oh, wait, they did, but they gave it to one person. Tucker. Whatever happened to it, guys? Whatever happened to the footage? Notice a pattern? They did the same thing here. 2024, we're going to get to the bottom of this conspiracy. It's a pedo island conspiracy. We need to get elected to have transparency. They get elected. Oh, you care about that? You're crazy. You're a Democrat. And pay attention to every influencer on the internet. Pay attention to every dumbass influencer that is telling you you're crazy, that is against Thomas Massey. Pay attention to everyone that's on the wrong side of this issue, because it either means they're being paid, just like the Democrats. There was a big scandal that came out. I forget which publication. It was a left-wing publication. But just like all the Democrats are on the payroll of the DNC, all the influencers, it's the same with the Republicans. If anyone's against Massey, they're either on the payroll of the Republicans or they're too stupid. But do not let them gaslight you into thinking that we don't deserve this. Because, and it goes without saying, the only reason we're not getting disclosure on this is because it would indict Israel. Obviously. How about these new revelations that Peter Thiel and the Prime Minister of Israel and Jeffrey Epstein were all hanging out together repeatedly? How about that new revelation?
So for all those that may not know, Peter Thiel, that's Elon Musk's old partner. That's the person that put $15 million into JD Vance. So when we're all sitting here wondering why this hillbilly elegy, this book came out about JD Vance, this movie came out, and it actually came out in 2020, I believe, when JD Vance was completely irrelevant. But I'm starting to put all this stuff together. Like, all of this stuff was a huge play. All of this stuff is just chess pieces. The reason why they wanted to put money into JD Vance is because he has the background that can appeal to middle America. He has the background that can appeal to who the Republican Party and conservatives thought that they could potentially lose, right? Not the elites, but middle America. That's who the Democrats and Republicans are always fighting for, the people that can go either way. The Democrats don't fight for the people that are diehard Democrats, just like the Republicans don't fight for the people that are diehard Republicans. They worry about the people that may or may not vote for them. So they got a JD Vance, put a whole bunch of money in him, so it seems, put him out, put this movie out, put this book out, and all this, simply to appeal to a particular group of middle America, people that are either middle class or lower class, that grow up and may deal with traumatic issues, may deal with all the things that J.D. Vance dealt with growing up. So therefore, they can sit back and look at other conservatives and say, hey, we're for you. Look at J.D. Vance's story. This is how all this stuff goes.
Why do you think they don't want to release it? It's because they're implicated. The Republicans are implicated with Israel. They protect themselves. Israel is part of it. That's why they won't release it. And so this idea that, you know, we're going to vote for Trump and Trump is going to deliver the revolution, obviously he's part of it. He's with them, obviously. Vance, Thiel, Tucker, they're all with them. Don't you understand now? That's what this shows. And if there wasn't something in there, why would they not release it? For all of these Republicans that are protesting this so much, why not just release it then? If it's a hoax, if it's a distraction, why not just release it and get it over with? Why fight tooth and nail to prevent the disclosure? Why marshal the resources against Republicans, create animosity with Marjorie Greene and Thomas Massie and the base? Why go through all this? Of course, because they're hiding something. They're protecting their own, obviously. And so the proposition of what Trump is, it's just no longer there anymore. What you're going to get from Trump is they're protecting themselves. Same story as always. Same policies, corporate tax cuts, wars all over the world. And what is the real change? It's a change in style. Aunt Jemima's making a comeback. Uncle Ben is making a comeback. Cracker Barrel logo is making a comeback. It's the Department of War. And all of you fucking idiots, all of you dummies, all the Hill people, conspiracy theorists, flyover country, the basket of deplorables, you're all supposed to eat that up.
Yo, y'all are funny in the comments. But shout out to Oriana. I appreciate it. I definitely appreciate that. We definitely gonna keep it pushing. Thomas Slater wrote something, defund Israel. You know what's so funny about this? And imagine in 2020, we had the Democratic Party screaming, defund the police. And we had a whole bunch of politicians get on board with that. Think about this. Defund the police. We had police precincts being taken over, all this crime happening, and we had our Democratic leadership, which is supposed to represent the people, right? Even more so than the Republican Party, right? That's what y'all claim. It's okay to say defund the police, but we don't have to imagine. Think about what happens when you say, hey, we just don't want to, send our money to Israel to support what they have going. Like, we just want to defund Israel. Democrats and Republicans will not say that. That is one thing that when you look at these consistencies across the aisle, right? Things that they won't say. It's okay for us to say defund the police. But if you say defund Israel, imagine what happens to these politicians. This is why they're all scared. How can we not think that Israel is controlling or has some sort of control on our government, influencing it significantly on both sides? That was just funny. I just thought that, none of the politicians will say defund Israel, but they're quick to jump out the window and say goofy stuff like defund the police. Let's keep going.
Alligator Alcatraz. Oh boy. I hear Trump's really going to do it to him this time, and they fucking close it down in 30 days. They hate you. They think you're an idiot. And in many cases, unfortunately, they are right. And it's sad. That's your Epstein files. Yep, it's a Democrat hoax. Remember that next year when Trump is going to be begging you to vote in the midterms. As stagflation sets in, the job market is cooked. Interest rates cannot come down because inflation's ticking back up. The war in Ukraine is only going to accelerate. We're going back to Iran. When all this stuff is raging and they're begging for your vote in the midterms next year, begging you, we just need to finish the job. President Trump needs you to vote, needs a majority. We got to finish what we started. Remember when he told you, I don't need your vote. Remember when they said Thomas Massie needs to switch parties already. Remember that. They call you a Democrat because you're true to the actual America First principles from 2016. And it's incredible. You know, now they're all glazing Patrick Buchanan all the time. You see this? They're taking turns now celebrating Patrick Buchanan. And, you know, there's something funny about that. They will always glaze these people when they're inert. Have you noticed that? Pay very close attention. When Patrick Buchanan was running for president, these Trump and Tucker and all these people wanted this guy dead. Now that he's 100 years old, now they want to give him the Medal of Freedom. Come on, fossil. Come on, you fossil. Now that you can't fight anymore, now that you're 100 years old, after we destroyed your reputation, destroyed your career, destroyed your life, oh, now we want to put a medal on you.
It's like Muhammad Ali.
And appropriate your sacrifice. We want to appropriate your integrity, your struggle, your sacrifice, your courage. We want to say, oh, retroactively, we were wrong. You were right. Here's your medal. And now we expect him to die within 15 years. You don't want to say that in a glib way, but that's what it is. Same with Ron Paul. All the same people said Ron Paul was crazy, wouldn't give him a chance, wanted him dead. Now that Ron Paul is 100 years old, oh, Ron Paul, maybe he was right. We should listen to him. When people like me and Thomas Massie and Ye and whoever, when these people are alive, they fight us tooth and nail. It's the same story. And watch, if I were gunned down tomorrow, they'd lionize me. In 20, 30 years, and in 60, 70 years, whatever, when I'm politically inert, then they'll lionize me. This is just how they play. In the now, they're screwing us over. In the now, they're screwing us over. They're pissing on our leg, telling us it's raining, doing one thing, telling us it's another. And I guess the reason that stands out to me is because when you look at 2016, who was spiritually with Trump in 16? It was the alt-right. And now here we are 10 years later, and it's just indistinguishable from the GOP. Who is in the Trump camp now? It's Susie Wiles, J.D. Vance, who was a never Trumper. It's Rick Grenell, who's a gay neocon. It's Marco Rubio, who is a neocon and ran against Trump in 16. It's Lindsey Graham, who's been around from, this is MAGA now. And who's on the outside? Thomas Massie, Marjorie Greene, Nick Fuentes. In some sense, Tucker's afraid to criticize Trump. Even Tucker's drifted outside. It's crazy. The gaslighting is insane. And to me, that's the story. That's the biggest story. Maybe that's the biggest significance of it. They said, hey, you rubes, hey, conspiracy theorists, hey, Hill people, hey, all you dumb fuck Republicans that care about the pedophile island conspiracy, don't worry, we're going to take care of it when we win. They win, they don't deliver, and then they turn and say, hey, dummies, you better get in line. It's crazy, and people take it. They created this. They played into it. They played it up. And now that the Hill people want it, they turn and say, you fucking idiots. If you still want this, you're not loyal enough. You still care about this? You should just change your party affiliation because you're not loyal to Trump. And all these suckers eat this up. All these suckers make it, John Doyle, it was surprising. He's one of these YouTubers. He did a video about it defending this, and his comment section ate him alive. So people need to understand that Trump went wrong here. This is a joke. But that's that. I do want to move on. We're going to talk a little bit about Venezuela.
Yo, hold on, man. And I'm glad that Nick just gave us a break. We're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep going. But yo, I could cry tears right now. I don't know if y'all know that song, but 1,000, thank y'all, man. Thank y'all for real. Thank y'all. This is years of work. Thank you. Let's keep going.
Venezuela as well. And then we'll get into our super chats. Our other big story tonight is about this new war that we're starting. Once again, president of no new wars is at it again. And it's really a series of things. You've got a war against the cartel, which is unlimited, effectively, okay? This is something you need to understand. The cartels are transnational criminal organizations. They're in every American state. They control Mexico, large parts of Mexico. Their supply chains run through South and Central America. This is an unlimited war. This is a war without limit. So that's one of the wars. One of the wars is that we are rebranding the cartels as terrorist organizations. So these transnational criminal cartels that sell narcotics and illegal substances, these are now terrorists. And the reason we're calling them that is so that we can use extraordinary government power to fight them. Drone strikes, unapproved military actions and interventions. That's one of the things that is starting here. The U.S. military is preparing to enter Mexico, a country of 130 million people. That's a lot of people. It's a big country. We're preparing to enter Mexico to fight their super powerful drug cartels. We're preparing to fight them everywhere else, in Venezuela, in Colombia, elsewhere. Secondarily, we're also deploying a major force package off the coast of Venezuela, in addition to a number of other soft power tactics, to create a maximum pressure situation to bring an end to the Maduro regime in Venezuela. When does it end? And think about, just quickly, before we get into this, think about the current situation in the world. There's an unending war in Ukraine. It's been raging now for over 3 years, 3.5 years. It's a proxy war with Russia. And at any given time, this could blow up into a nuclear war. Ukraine is launching drone attacks inside Russia against their strategic aircraft. We're giving them long-range missile systems to bomb Moscow. We're running out of stockpiles of defensive systems and offensive systems. That's one thing going on. Another thing that's going on is the entire Middle East is a war zone. We're disarming Hezbollah in Lebanon. We're arming Israel in Gaza. We're bombing Iran. The Iraqis are kicking us out. We're bombing the Houthis in Yemen and fighting in the Red Sea. But we're also arming Taiwan. We're preparing for a Chinese invasion of Taiwan, so we're sending them all kinds of military equipment while China does huge military drills in the Pacific. We're fighting in the Horn of Africa. We're trying to prevent a war between Ethiopia and Egypt. We've bombed Somalia more times this year than any other year since 2019, the last time Trump was in office. And in the context of all this, we're sending 4,500 soldiers to Venezuela with destroyers and missile carriers, put a $50 million bounty on the head of Maduro, while we're preparing to invade Mexico. While we're invading Chicago and LA and Baltimore. This was the president of no new wars. This was the president of things would get calmer, more stable. There would be less conflict. Now it seems like did we misread that? Was there a typo? It's the president of unlimited war. Anyway, here's the news on this. That's just a primer. Trump is deploying 4,500 soldiers to Venezuela with destroyers, missile carriers, you name it, submarines, reconnaissance aircraft, drones, it's all there. And we're now declaring a new maximum pressure campaign against Venezuela. Like I said, the administration put a $50 million bounty on the head of Venezuela's president. And the purpose of this is so that there will be regime change. We're hoping that with a $50 million bounty on his head, that elements inside the military or in the regime will cash in on that bounty. There will be a power struggle. They'll betray the leader, kill him, and a more pro-American government will take power.
I got it. All right. So this was an epiphany that I had while hearing this. Think about why it makes sense for the government, Trump, to label the cartel as terrorists. Then, of course, they can use all these amazing weapons, right, to attack them. But beyond that, what it does is it allows us to get into a war, right? We can all acknowledge that countries love war. The elites, the power structure in countries, they like wars. A lot of money to be made. So what it does to the average American, now we can justify and rationalize this war as being one for a righteous cause, because what are we going against? We're going against all these drugs, all this fentanyl, all these drugs that come in across our border. So, and then I think back to like all this border talk. If you're not doing the deportations that you said that you were doing, was all this border talk that you were basing it around the fentanyl that's coming in from Canada or from Mexico? Was it all to eventually just justify going to war with the cartels? Why does it make sense to go to war with the cartels? You can make a whole lot of money. The military industrial complex, weapons manufacturers, obviously going to make a whole lot of money, right? But who else is going to make a lot of money? Who else is going to make a lot of money while we Americans sit back naively and just say, yeah, we need to go get the cartel. They're bringing in all these wars. Who doesn't know somebody that has overdosed from fentanyl and opioid? A lot of us, right? Who doesn't know somebody that has an addiction? And what do we attribute a lot of these drugs coming into America? We attribute them to these Mexican cartels. But think back to what I just said. Who else makes money? Who are the Mexican cartel's biggest competitors? Follow the money, right? Who are the biggest competitors? Big Pharma. Think about it. Who else sells more drugs than Big Pharma? So not only, so this is like a win-win-win when it comes to Trump. You get to have a war, which builds the morale of the country. You get to get the American people to back the war and look at you as just a good person, right? Maybe you'll ask for another Nobel Peace Prize because now you're stopping fentanyl from coming here. We have this opioid crisis. Everybody in our family, friends, we all know somebody that struggles with this. So you also have that. Then you can justify it. Well, you can justify it that way, but then you also have Big Pharma, the same Big Pharma that gives a whole bunch of money to Democrats and Republicans. What did we say earlier? Pay attention to the stuff that benefits both Democrats and Republicans that neither side will call out. And this doesn't even take into account that, I don't know if y'all are aware, Venezuela has the largest proven, I believe, oil reserves. So this is, yeah, it makes sense for Donald Trump to want to go to war with Venezuela. You got the oil, you get to get rid of the competition from Big Pharma, you get to feed the military industrial complex, you get to look like a hero to America, maybe ask for that Nobel Peace Prize because you're saving X amount of people from overdosing and on this bad fentanyl that the big bad Mexican cartels bring in. All of these different things. And it goes back, like, was it really about the border? Was it really about the migrants coming in? Or was that just the excuse that you used to create this bigger plan? I don't know. These are just the thoughts that run through my head.
We're deploying force in the region in the hopes that this will instigate a conflict. We are hoping that by maybe facilitating some kind of embargo.
And I got to address, obviously, the Groovy Banana. Thank you so much. First time finding out that this stuff is on YouTube. Over the last few days, I've gone from thinking that he was some gay grifter to just a normal guy. 1,000 live viewers is crazy. This is why this is so dope. They tried to paint Nick in a picture so none of us would pay attention to him. They tried to paint him in a picture so nobody would touch him. All of these podcasters, all your favorite podcasters, they are at fault too. They won't platform him. Tucker won't platform him. PBD won't platform him. Pierce Morgan won't platform him. They'll platform any and everybody else but this gifted 27 and 28-year-old who's clearly impactful, clearly has an influence, huge following. Why won't you give him a chance? Not that you have to agree with them, but do you interview just people that you agree with? No, you got PBD interviewing mob bosses, but you can't interview Nick Fuentes. These people are scared. They're all scared of accountability. And Nick brings a certain level of accountability that not only challenges Democrats, but it challenges Republicans, and it challenges all the people that are on one side of the fence or the other. Just my thoughts. Let's keep going.
By attacking Venezuelan ships or personnel, then maybe they'll strike back and then we can attack Venezuela. That's what that is. And so pursuant to that strategy, this week, the administration released footage of them bombing some small vessel with 11 people on it. The administration claims it was a drug smuggling vessel operated by Tren de Agua, which they recently classified as a terrorist group. And so they said there's drugs on it. They didn't attempt to interdict the vessel. There was no effort to force them to surrender. They just killed everybody on board. They filmed it and they released the footage. And this is a story from the New York Times. It says, quote, the Trump administration declared the start of a new and potentially violent campaign against Venezuelan cartels on Wednesday, defending a deadly U.S. military strike on a boat that officials said was carrying drugs. Even a specialist in the law of war questioned the legality of the attack. The administration said that 11 people were aboard the vessel. It was unclear whether they were given a chance to surrender. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said at a news conference in Mexico City that seizing drug shipments in recent years had not dissuaded cartels and traffickers. What will stop them, he said, is when we blow up and get rid of them. Pentagon officials were still working on Wednesday on what legal authority they would tell the public was used to back up the extraordinary strike in international waters. Congress has not authorized any armed conflict against Tren de Aragua, I've been mispronouncing it, Tren de Aragua, or Venezuela, and several legal experts said they were unaware of any precedent for claiming that a country could invoke self-defense as a basis to target drug trafficking suspects with lethal force.
And real quick, I just want to clarify that obviously when I was talking about the oil reserves, that was Venezuela. The other stuff was with the cartels. Just wanted to, in case I threw all that in there. Keep going. Sorry. My bad.
A former senior federal law enforcement official said the attack was a significant change in anti-narcotics operations. First, the official said, Tren de Aragua was not known for handling large shipments of cocaine or fentanyl. Instead, it was known to focus on smuggling what is known as pink cocaine, a psychedelic substance generally made by combining ketamine and MDMA. The former official also said it was unusual to have 11 people manning a vessel that could easily be crewed by 2 or 3, especially since traffickers are always trying to maximize the amount of cargo devoted to carrying drugs, not human beings. In the former official's opinion, it was more likely the vessel was carrying migrants on a human smuggling run, although it would be impossible to know for sure given that any evidence of smuggling was destroyed in the attack. Amid this belligerent rhetoric, the Pentagon has been amassing a small armada of warships in the Southern Caribbean to include 3 guided missile destroyers. The Navy has also deployed 2 amphibious ready group, including the USS San Antonio and the USS Iwo Jima and the USS Fort Lauderdale, carrying 4,500 sailors, and the 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit with 2,200 Marines, according to Defense Department officials. Several P-8 surveillance planes and at least 1 submarine have also been deployed to the region. So this is how I would treat this subject, because it is important to distinguish. I'm not anti-war at all. War is a necessary extension of statecraft. There's politics, diplomacy, statecraft, and there is war. And interventions of many different kinds and on different levels, it's necessary, especially for a global empire. So I'm not one of these people that says that we will ever achieve a world order without armed conflict of any stripe. So I'm not anti-war for moral or ethical reasons. I think war is frequently necessary. I'm not against interventions. I think that in many cases, again, as the global hegemon, it is necessary for us to intervene in certain instances. So I'm not ideologically against war. I'm not ideologically against intervention. And I would say that my real foreign policy, my real ideology when it comes to matters like this is it has to be in the furtherance of America's self-interest, always in every case. It should be just, it should be humane. I believe that we should exhaust diplomatic channels first, and as a last resort, in areas concerning vital strategic interests of the American nation, of the American people, I think that interventions up to and including war is sometimes necessary. So I want to make that clear. And in instances like this, we're reminded of why that's an important qualification. Why do we oppose the war in Iraq? Because it's not necessary. Is that the best use of American personnel? Is that the best use of American equipment, resources, money, effort, and energy? Is the best use of American equipment and all the rest of it fighting a counterinsurgency in Iraq? Trying to build up some democratic regime? I think absolutely not. I don't think that was the best use of force. I don't think that was the best use of all the available tools at our disposal to use in that situation. I think that could have been managed. I think there were other ways that we could have went about it. And when you look at a conflict like that, what is obvious is that it's so far away. It's an alien culture. It's a small country, not even a middle power. And it's in a completely different part of the world. And you look at who benefits the most, it's certainly not us. It is regional powers in that country. It's countries like Saudi Arabia or Israel or Iran. They all benefit on some level from that, far more directly, and I think in greater measure than we do. So people say, why is that our problem? And people say the same thing about Ukraine. Why is that our problem? Why are we fighting over there? And I think that the further away from America you get, the more compelling that argument is. And I think there's also an argument to be made in terms of proximate threat. Russia is certainly a greater threat than Iran. Mexico, however, is closer to the United States than Russia. And Mexico's hurting the United States a lot more than Russia is by sending us all these illegal immigrants and smuggling drugs and human beings than Russia ever can in their occupation of Ukraine or whatever else they might do. So this is how the conversation should progress. And when you look at this intervention in Venezuela, or elsewhere for that matter in the Western Hemisphere, what is clear is that this, you could argue, is our jurisdiction. How many people that came here in the past 4 years under Joe Biden came from Venezuela? It's a significant percentage.
All right, so very quickly, I wanted to let him give his reasons for why he's for war before I respond. The reasons why I'm against war is because it doesn't get us anywhere closer. Like a couple different things. What is inevitable? For one, you leave it up to the discretion. If war is an option, then when you have all of these benefits that we've listed out for the last 15 minutes that we've been talking about this, obviously presidents are going to be incentivized to want to get in war. Until you take something off the table as an option, people will no longer, like, people are not going to go out of their way to find another option. If war benefits us because, hey, this is what we do, it boosts the morale, it makes a whole bunch of money to people that we want to do favors for because they do favors for us, If it does all of these things and it's an option, of course, presidents are going to lean that way. Of course, leaders are going to lean that way. Of course, the people that control the politicians are going to tell them to lean that way. Until you take it off the table, people won't in their minds look to find another option. So when Nick says, be diplomatic at first, and then we see that happening all the time. How many times have we seen, oh yeah, we're going to negotiate with Bibi Netanyahu. We sit down at the table. Then Bibi Netanyahu's just going to do whatever Bibi Netanyahu wants to do. How many times you sit down with Zelensky and Putin? They're just going to do what they want to do. It's just seen as something to check off the list. It's just something to check off the list. It's not even taken seriously because so many countries, the leaders and elites benefit from it. They don't have the same skin in the game that an American citizen who's not in politics would have. If it's like, until you remove the junk food from your house, if you're addicted to junk food, and maybe this is a bad analogy, but until you move it out your house, you're still going to eat it. Like it's a bad analogy. Y'all get what I'm saying? Let's keep going. I just think that until we remove war from being an option, we will not use our intelligence to find another option. We will never look at it and say, yo, this is demonic. This is evil. This goes against the biblical scriptures. And this is what I don't understand. All these people that claim to have this Christian faith, all these people that claim to be so tied into these religions, we just conveniently ignore when it says in the Bible, thou shalt not kill. We conveniently ignore when it says that vengeance is not for man. Vengeance is for God, right? Doesn't that say that in your scripture? I say your scripture, I embrace the lessons that come from it, but I don't pledge my life to it. Y'all pledge your life to it. The Christians I'm talking about. How do you pledge your life to something, but then you conveniently ignore it? And could there be a greater sin, or could there be something greater if God was looking down at us and he was doing a Bible study with us and we said, God, what's the number one lesson that you want us to not avoid? It would probably be killing other people and justifying it with vengeance, right? If he had a top 10, like the top 10 commandments, it would probably be one of the biggest things that God would tell us to avoid. But what have we done over time? Because it's become so normalized with us doing it, now we just embrace it as a credible option. Look at all the things in society that have become normalized just within the last 15, 20 years. 30, 40 years ago, we would have looked at a lot of the transgender, a lot of the woke stuff as insane. But because it's been normalized, and this is just over 20 years. So imagine when it comes to justifying war for hundreds of years, how our minds have completely warped to doing something that goes against the God that we supposedly pledge our lives to. Now, you can interpret it however you want to interpret it, but it's very clear what it says when it comes to vengeance and when it comes to killing people. It just is what it is. A lot of people conveniently read the Bible. Y'all don't know exactly what's in it. You got the Ted Cruz approach. Well, okay, how can I interpret this Bible to justify what's best for my personal interest and what's going to line my pockets? Oh yeah, it says Christians should be good to Israel. It was written 3,000 years ago, but they got to be talking about the Israel from 1948. Yeah. All right, God says be good to Israel. It's goofy. We got to get out of this mindset. Well, we don't have to, but just like Nick calls certain stuff out, I'm going to call it out. If it's inconsistent, I'm calling it out. Let's keep going.
We had probably millions of Venezuelan refugees come to the United States in just the past 5 years, but many more over the past 10 or 15 or 20 years since the Bolivarian Revolution. And what's more, Venezuela is working with China and Russia and Iran. They're working with Cuba. They're working with Haiti. And they're right there on our doorstep. They're in the Western Hemisphere. They border the Gulf of Mexico. And they have an enormous amount of natural resources, gold, oil, among other things. And so if that's in our neighborhood, if their people are becoming our problem, if they're working with our enemies inside our hemisphere close to our borders, then this would be the best case to make for a regime change war or for some kind of intervention. It's hard to make a case for overthrowing Iran or Russia. It's hard to make a case for getting involved in Congo or Ethiopia or Somalia. It's easier to make a case for getting involved in Venezuela because we want that oil. We want that territory. We want to stop the tide, stem the tide of people flowing from that country into ours. We want to control our neighborhood for our security. And there's a much better case to be made about that than, let's say, Iran, for that matter, or Hezbollah, or Hamas even, dare I say it. With that being said, are we ready for a regime change war in Venezuela? Who voted for that? Did Congress authorize a war in Venezuela? Did the American people vote for a war in Venezuela? I could have swore that we voted for no new wars. What's the appetite for war in this country? We're fighting in Ukraine. We're fighting in the Middle East. We're barely out of Syria and Iraq. We just finished in Afghanistan. Now we're going to get involved in a major war in Venezuela. And how are we going about this exactly? Whose decision was that, and how are we going about it? Because what it looks like is they're trying to force us into a war. They're putting 4,500 sailors off the coast of Venezuela. 4,500 sailors are not going to topple the Venezuelan regime. So what's the goal? The goal of this, like was the policy in the first Trump administration, is to foment chaos. By putting a bounty on Maduro's head, by putting these ships off the coast, by attacking these Venezuelan vessels, the goal is to foment chaos inside the country, to create instability. And that could easily backfire. As a matter of fact, it already did. Why do you think we got millions of Venezuelan refugees in the past 4 years? Why do you think that was? It's because the first Trump administration had a maximum pressure campaign against the Maduro regime. As a result, hyperinflation happened and the people were starving. As a result, they started pouring into America as a direct consequence of our regime change policy. Does that sound familiar? That's exactly what happened in Syria. That's exactly what happened in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Somalia. Why do you think there's so many Somalians in Minnesota? Because we're involved over there. It's the same reason there were millions of people pouring into America. All those Venezuelan gangs, they came from there because we destroyed their country. Because we wouldn't let them sell their oil. Because we put maximum pressure on them in the hopes their society would collapse. Well, it didn't work. And so what do we have now? Well, we still have an unfriendly regime, and we have all their criminals here and all their refugees. Do you know that on Trump's last day in office in his first term, he gave temporary protected status to Venezuelan refugees? Look it up. After 4 years of John Bolton's maximum pressure campaign on Venezuela, which destroyed their society and forced millions of their people to move here, do you know that the precipitating action of that policy was that Trump effectively gave them amnesty on his last day in office? Google it. January 19th, 2021, Trump signed the order that gave TPS, extended TPS. That means temporary protected, means that if Venezuelans come here, they won't be deported. Starting to get it, starting to see the connection here. You know, it's a nice idea. Let's invade Venezuela. That's our neighborhood. Let's take it over. We're going to put the screws in them. It's a nice idea, right? But how does it work in reality?
So just a little fact check, and it does confirm what Nick said. But it says that, well, you guys determine whether it confirmed it. It says on January 19, 2021, Trump issued a memorandum providing a temporary reprieve for over 100,000 Venezuelans, deferring their removal for 18 months due to the deteriorating conditions in Venezuela. No amnesty was granted. That action postponed deportations. It was not a pathway to citizenship or legal status. I'm just reading what it says. Trump did not provide any form of amnesty, pardon, or residency authorization to these individuals or any other Venezuelans. So bottom line, it says Trump's final immigration-related action towards Venezuelans was a temporary deferment of deportations, not an amnesty. So y'all take it for what it is. Is it just something that they just kicking the can down the road to give them another 18 months, so then 18 months, they can give them another 18 months? I don't know. We'd have to look into it.
When it backfires and society explodes, but the government remains, they just send their people here. And what does the administration do? Gives them amnesty. And now we have millions of Venezuelans living here, and all their criminals are here, and Americans are dead. And there's all these incalculable effects of what they're doing because of that policy. Are you now ready for another war? And what's the big idea here? We're going to send a few boats and we're going to hope the society collapses. What if it doesn't? What if they put up a fight? What if there's some insurgency? What if, and riddle me this, after 4 or 5 years of unlimited open borders and immigration, what if there's terrorist attacks inside America? Has anyone thought this through? America's waging war on the cartels which control Mexico, a country of 130 million people. America's waging war on Venezuela, which is a massive, rich country in its own right that has sent millions of its criminals and refugees into America. Has anybody thought this one through? Is this going to be a swift and easy, we're going to go in and we're going to just do things, eradicate the cartels, and then overthrow Venezuela just for fun? And we're doing this in the middle of the next war with Iran. We're doing this in the middle of the unending war in Ukraine, in the middle of trying to play this denial game with China in Taiwan. Now we're going to be fighting a counterinsurgency in America and Mexico and a regime change war in Venezuela to boot. What's the big idea here? That's the only part that I wonder. I'm not necessarily against regime change in Venezuela, but let's do it right. Let's do it the right way. Let's have a plan. Let's have limited objectives. Let's use overwhelming force and keep it limited and go in there with some semblance of a plan. Let's do it after we get out of Ukraine. Let's do it after we get out of the Middle East. Is this really what this country needs, is another war? And that's not to mention we're trying to start a counterinsurgency in Mexico. Do you figure how that's going to go? These cartels are brutal. Do you see what they do? It has been tried. The Mexican government tried to put the screws in the cartel. They just escalate their tactics. Terrorism, kidnapping, brutal attacks on police and military. Do you think that won't spill over into the United States?
Do you think it won't spill over to the United States? I think this is something that, because we live in so much privilege in America, where things have not hit our shores in so long, the irony of 9/11 coming up, because things have not touched us, because it has not impacted our lives the way that these wars impact other countries, because most of these, all these wars that we're fighting, they're not being fought on our land. So it shifts our mindset from it. But even when he talks about regime change, this is my concern. We think, like, we're so arrogant that we think because we're big bad America that we can just go into Venezuela, do whatever it is that we want, take control of their oil reserves. So therefore that'll, be poking a shot at Russia and China. It's obviously part of the energy battle. But we think that we're just going to go into that country, steamroll over them. And we don't think that there's going to be a segment of their population that 5, 10, 15 years from now will be saying is a terrorist organization that is threatening America. Well, yeah, look what we did. This is the same energy that we put out when we want to ally with Israel with everything over there. We'll sit here and say that's our greatest ally, but every single terrorist group, let me not say that. A lot of these quote unquote terrorist groups that we end up having problems with it's because we're affiliated with Israel and doing strikes either with Israel on behalf of Israel or backing them to do it on their own. So we say that this is not going to be a forever war, but what makes us so arrogant to think that we can just violate other people, and once we have them down once, that they're not just going to create a terrorist what is deemed as a terrorist organization that is really just has the same energy that we would call heroic if it was on our end. If somebody did to our country what we do to all these other countries, and we had nobody fight back, nobody stand up, we would look at that as like, that's some sucker-ish. But when these other countries, they have a small population of their population, like of their country, that's saying, no, we're not just taking this. Of course, there's going to be some deep resentment. You're killing people's mothers, you're killing people's kids, you're killing people's fathers. What do we think this is going to lead to? This is why, and I think I have it pulled up. Hold on, let me go back to this because I was going to read this earlier, but I was letting my boy Nick cook. This is why I go back to George Washington's farewell address. In George Washington's farewell address, hold on, let me make sure that I'm not on mute. Sometimes I'll be on mute. George Washington's farewell address is famous for his advice on foreign affairs. I'm going to give y'all some of the key points. Avoid permanent alliances. The U.S. should not form permanent military or political alliances with foreign nations. Temporary alliances in emergencies might be necessary, but long-term entanglements would drag America into wars that weren't its own. Number 2, steer clear of European conflicts. Washington stressed that America's unique position, geographically distant, as Nick was referring to, allowed it to avoid being caught up in constant European rivalries. Number 3, promote neutrality. He urged the U.S. to remain impartial and friendly with all nations, trading with them, but not becoming politically entangled. Number 4, focus on American interest first. George Washington was an American first guy. By avoiding foreign entanglements, the U.S. could strengthen itself at home politically, economically, and militarily. We're always trying to go in and clean up somebody else's home while we come back home to a dirty house. It doesn't make any sense for the American people. It makes a whole lot of sense for the elites that benefit.
Because you'd be wrong. And what is that going to look like? These are two things happening concurrently. A counterinsurgency in Mexico. Every cartel is a terrorist group. We're finding a counterinsurgency in every Latin American country. And on top of it, combined with it, a regime change war in Venezuela. Has anyone actually thought this through? What's the logic behind any of this? So, and here's the thing, I could be persuaded something does need to be done about the cartels. Something does need to be done about the regime in Venezuela. But what this looks like to me is that the Trump administration is not governing based on what is in the best interest of America. It seems like they're doing things day to day, week to week, looking for easy layups. Why did he do the press conference with Vladimir Putin? To get good press coverage. Why did he do this attack on the vessel off the coast of Venezuela? To get an easy win. It seems like there's this deadly lack of a strategy inside the administration with the economy, with the foreign policy. And I'm not trying to be a concern troll, but like, look around. Liberation Day, what the fuck was that? You know, they had 5 years to put together this tariff schedule, and they put out this thing, this convoluted method of calculating them. They back off after a week. Well, is there a plan? What's the plan here? And then with the economy, they're just begging the Federal Reserve to lower rates, to bail them out. They've got this huge problem with the labor market. Inflation's ticking back up. Their strategy is to beg the Federal Reserve chair to resign or to lower rates to get more cheap liquidity. What's the plan? We're about to enter stagflation. That's the plan? What's the plan with Ukraine? We're going to beg Putin to stop, do a press conference. Wait a second. Why is he not stopping? And now this. We're just going to start firing away at the cartels in Mexico and Venezuela, hoping it won't spill over, hoping it's going to be an easy victory? What's the goal here? I'm not liking where any of this is going. I'm sounding the alarm bells early. In the first term, maybe there was some kind of buffer because it was on easy mode. You know, we were still in the age of cheap credit. We didn't have the COVID pandemic. The Ukraine war hadn't started yet, like we were in an earlier stage. But now we're in a real crisis, and it seems like we're heading over the cliff. I do not like the sound of any of this. Regime change in Venezuela, mark my words, it is not as simple as this administration thinks. Taking on the cartels in Mexico, same story. So I don't know what these guys are doing. It's not legal. There's no vote on any of this. There's no justification. They're running this foreign policy, it seems like, to please people on Twitter or something, to get the approval ratings up. It's not good. So I don't like it. And like I said, I'm open to it. If they had some sort of plan for Venezuela, if this was keeping in mind the strategy elsewhere, I could be convinced, because I think that it would be preferable for America and for America's best interest to have Venezuela under our control, have their oil resources, their other natural resources, to eject these other foreign powers that are there. I mean, if you're supporting Team America, that would be beneficial. I don't think this is the way to go about it. It seems like they're trying to instigate a conflict that we didn't vote for, half-cocked. Wow, we've got all this other stuff going on. Doesn't seem like a great idea, but we'll have to see how that plays out. We're going to move on. We're going to take a look at our super chats.
Yo, it's not over. It's not over. But yeah, y'all know pretty much the wars. Like, what? Human beings are not responsible enough to justify wars or to know when it's appropriate to go to war or not. Human beings, it should not be an option of human beings deciding when it's okay to kill another person. Aren't we all supposed to be godly beings? Isn't that the opposite of what God would want? We're all supposed to be God's children, right? So let's adjust the mindset. Let's adjust the mindset. And Vaughn's put it very clearly. War means I want your ish. That's what war means. Give me it. I want something that you have. That's what war means. All right, so we're going to get into, we got this video. It's a short video. It's only about 5 minutes long that we'll review with RFK Jr. There's actually a lot of the same topics that we're talking about here that are going to come up on with RFK and what he's going through right now with this vaccine talk and everything else. So we'll spend about 15 minutes on that. And then we have the most important part of the show. For those that are just tuning in for the first time, the most important part of the show is at the end. Stay tuned if you haven't tapped in with us before. But let me pull this up for you guys. Let me make it large. And we're going to get into RFK Jr. in his sparring match with Elizabeth Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And make sure that y'all, if you are getting ready to leave, do me a favor before you leave. And everybody else do it too. Like. Subscribe if you haven't already and turn your notifications on.
So last November, while you were under consideration to become Secretary of Health and Human Services, Mr. Kennedy, you said, quote, if vaccines are working for somebody, I'm not going to take them away. No exceptions, no ifs, ands, or buts. You would not take away vaccines from anyone who wanted them. Then last week, you announced that the COVID-19 vaccine is no longer approved for healthy people under the age of 65. In announcing the change, you said the vaccine will be available for anyone who wants it. Now, obviously, both things cannot be true at the same moment. So let's clear this up right now, Secretary Kennedy. Will you tell America that all adults and all children over 6 months of age are eligible to get a COVID booster at their local pharmacy today?
Anybody can get the booster.
I'm sorry?
Anybody can get it, Senator.
Anybody. So you're saying that is now the official rule of HHS, anybody is eligible to get a booster by just walking into the pharmacy.
It's not recommended for healthy people.
No. If you don't recommend, then the consequence of that in many states is that you can't walk into a pharmacy and get one. It means insurance companies don't have to cover the $200 or so cost. As Senator Dr. Cassidy said, you are effectively denying people vaccines.
We're not going to recommend a product for which there's no clinical data for that indication. Is that what I should be doing?
What you should be doing is honoring your promise that you made when you were looking to get confirmed in this job.
You're going like
and
this.
That is, you promised that you would not take away vaccines from anyone who wanted them. You just changed the classification of the COVID vaccine.
I'm not taking them away from people, Senator.
It takes it away if you can't get it from your pharmacist.
Well, most Americans are going to be able to get it from their pharmacy for free. Most Americans will be able to get it from their pharmacy for free.
The question is everyone who wants it. That was your promise.
No, I didn't. I never promised that I was going to recommend products for which there is no indication.
When you said,
and I know you've taken $855,000 from pharmaceutical companies, Senator.
Did you hold up a big sign saying that you were lying?
Yo, these are the adults in the room. First and foremost, this is when I say, like, people are so completely out of touch. A lot of y'all Democrats, a lot of the Democratic politicians are completely out of touch. Democrats, y'all need to tell your people that people are not on board with this vaccine. Like, people do not think about the vaccine how a lot of these Democratic politicians and lawmakers believe that they do. Just my opinion. And what's so goofy about this entire conversation is instead of asking about whether or not he promised it, forget all that. Okay, you said this, you lied. Okay, why did you lie? Maybe we should ask some questions about whether or not it should be pushed out to everybody. Maybe we should be asking these questions. And just to kind of give y'all some context, because I just want to make sure we're giving the context, this is what RFK Jr. did. Take it or leave it. You guys can be on whatever side of the fence you are on it. On May 27, 2025, RFK Jr. announced via X that the CDC would no longer recommend COVID-19 vaccines for healthy children or pregnant women. This marked a major shift in vaccine guidance from universally recommended to limited recommendation only for high-risk groups. The FDA restricts eligibility. By August 27, 2025, the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, revoked emergency use authorizations for COVID-19 vaccines and limited approval to people aged 65 plus, individuals with underlying health conditions. The vaccination remains available for younger and healthy individuals, but only with a doctor's prescription, creating new access hurdles. If you want to get a COVID vaccine, what is the problem with going to the doctor and getting a prescription for it? You got to get a prescription to get an MRI. You got to get a prescription for a whole bunch of stuff. The only reason why these politicians like Elizabeth Warren and a whole lot of other people who take all this money from Big Pharma, like RFK Jr. just called out that she's taking $850,000 from Big Pharma. If somebody gave you $850,000, don't you think that would kind of maybe shift, your mindset on some things? Don't you, or are you just that honorable to the point where you would, if you lack the honor in taking the money from a industry like Big Pharma, then let's not make it about you. A person, the type of person, a politician that takes money from Big Pharma, almost $1 million, what do you think their motivation is going to be? It's going to be to providing this COVID vaccine to as many different people as possible, right? They want to spread it as much as they can. That's what I would think that they would be wanting to do. They'd be wanting to spread it by any means. So therefore, you can't, him just putting in a certain barrier, that she'll call it, just to where you have to go to an actual doctor to get a prescription. Like, is that what we're really complaining about? Is that what we're really complaining about? And then when you think back to 2020, when they were pushing all this stuff, when they had Juvenile and all these other goofies making songs and trying to promote us, talking about instead of back that ass up, they had the vax, that whatever goofy. Think back to the lengths that they went to They're offering people free cheeseburgers and all the craziness that they did just to get you to take this shot. And based on all the research that I've done, let's just say I'm glad the position that I took in not getting the shot. I'll just leave it there. Let's keep going.
When you said that, because you are the one who said you would not take them away. Now, Senator Kennedy,
I'm not taking them away from anybody.
Secretary,
you want me to indicate a product for which there is no clinical data?
Senator,
is that what you want?
Secretary Kennedy, you said you wouldn't, and now you did.
I'm not taking them away. Everybody can get access to them.
No, they can't walk into a pharmacy the way they could last month and get access.
It depends on the state. It depends on the states.
A year ago,
but they can still get it. Everybody can get it. Everybody can get it, Senator.
So look, let's move on. You clearly are taking away vaccines. I've seen the list for what's coming up next, and that is the agenda for the next CDC vaccine panel. And first up is ratifying your COVID actions. Second is hepatitis B is on the agenda. So should Americans expect you to take away hepatitis vaccine access as well, even though you promised not to?
As I said, I'm not taking vaccines away from anybody.
Okay, same answer, right? You're just going to deny that when people can't get access, that you're not taking it away. Then let me ask you, is that the same game you're going to play with me?
You want me to recommend every product in the world?
No,
so that without any clinical trial data.
Through on your promises.
Yeah, my promise was to give.
A month ago, we could get COVID vaccines by just walking.
You can still get COVID vaccines, Senator.
You are taking that away.
No, you are still. You can still get the COVID vaccines, and Medicare will still pay for them, and Medicaid will still pay for them.
Tell the head of the CDC that if she refused to sign off on your changes to the childhood vaccine schedule, that she had to resign.
No, I told her that she had to resign because I asked her, are you a trustworthy person? And she said no. So if you had an employee who told you they weren't trustworthy, would you ask them to resign, Senator?
So I'm sorry, but this is not what she has said publicly. She has said
I'm not surprised about that.
So you're saying she's lying?
Yes. Every conversation I had with her, there were witnesses.
Let me get this straight. This is the same person that less than a month earlier, you stood next to her and described her as unimpeachable, and you had full confidence in her, and that you had full confidence in her scientific credentials. And in a month, she became a liar?
Yeah, you should ask her what changed. And by the way, a month ago, you were voting against her. Oh, because you thought she was either incompetent, ineligible, or unsuited to the task.
I voted against her because I was afraid she was going to bend the knee to you and Donald Trump. And it looks like she didn't bend the knee, so you fired her. Look.
Yo. Shout out to all the baby boomers. But it's time to pass it on. Like, I'm just joking. Just politics. Like, just my parents probably mad at me here. And I'm just talking about as far as politics. There should be something else. Y'all have greater value that y'all can give than getting involved in this. Watching Elizabeth Warren on that, it just looks. That was difficult to watch. Honestly, I wouldn't blame y'all if y'all left after hearing that. But it is what it is. We know that these politicians are controlled by Big Pharma. They're bought out by Big Pharma. It just is what it is. So I'm not going to hold y'all anymore. We try to get off by 10. So I'm going to make this as quick as possible. However, this is the most important part of the show. So I need everybody's undivided attention. Please just give me 2 minutes, 2 minutes. All right. So this, at the end of the show, we know that we talk about a lot of heavy topics. We know that we have a lot of back and forth. We encourage the dialogue in the group chat. We encourage you to think outside the box, challenge yourself, as well as challenging others, the way that you think, all these different things. This is how we grow. This is how we grow together and advance humanity and society. However, we do not want to make sure that we're carrying any anger or anything else throughout the day. All right. The vision has to be set on positivity. We talked about vengeance and all these other things. It can't be on vengeance. It can't be on resentment. And it just has to be, and I'm saying it has to be, because that's the goal that I'm looking for. It has to be on focusing on positivity. So what we do is we take at least 45 seconds every show at the end to clear your mind. If you never meditated before, it's cool. You can do it for 45 seconds. We meditate, we manifest, we just take time to be still. Whatever it is that you want to call it, we like to focus on our breathing intentionally. Every exhale, we're releasing all the negative energy. Every inhale, we're inhaling the positive, all right? We need to be doing this stuff throughout the day, all right? You can't say that you're a godly being and not focus on the spiritual aspects of things as well, all right? Mind, body, soul, it's all connected. So 45 seconds, you guys choose to do whatever it is that you focus on. I know on our show, for those that are newcomers, every Sunday and Monday, we set out with intention to make this our greatest week ever. So a lot of times on Fridays when we're doing our vision, we're making sure that we're putting ourselves in a position like, what do I need to do to bring the goal to fruition? All right. So like I said, focus on whatever it is that you want to focus on. Maybe just clear your mind. Maybe just completely clear your mind. Don't think about anything, whatever it is. We're going to take 45 seconds. If you're in a safe place, feel free to close your eyes. If not, then just be still. 45 seconds. Let's go. And remember, every exhale, feel the negative energy going out. Every inhale, positive. All right, one last exhale, getting rid of every bit of negative energy that you got in your body and inhaling the positive. Now, what do we got? We just recirculating positive energy. And hold up, since y'all done gassed me up before, then we got to finish the show out. We got to finish the show out, man. Y'all done gassed me up, man. This is my new single, The Black Guy in the Corner, you heard? Make sure y'all check it out. Make sure that y'all like, share the live.
It's the black guy in the corner, but they'd rather see a nigga on the corner. They say I'm stealing Nick's clips like I'm stealing Nick's chick, not knowing that I hit him first week for the lick. I said, Nick, I could post here while you post there. Run the money up, then I send it over there. Let's figure out a split that's honorable and...
Hold up. I'll finish off with that. I'll take it off with that. But what we always have to do is do our exit, right? So y'all know what we come here to do, all right? The OG Network, we're all about elevating on purpose. When we say purpose, we capitalize that big P for purpose, all right? That purpose, we're doing it intentionally as well as focusing on what is our overall purpose going to be in this world, all right? So that's what we focus on, intentionally challenging ourselves to raise our standards to become the best leaders we can become, as well as challenging ourselves to raise our standards in developing into the individuals we need to develop into to accomplish these amazing goals that we set out for ourselves. All right. In case y'all didn't know what OG means, it's out here getting it. It's for overachievers. All right. We're overachievers. We're chasing fulfilling our potential. Forget whether or not we're going to get there in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now. We are actively pursuing it and living in the moment while we do so. We're not focusing on the past. We're not anxious about the future. We are 100% present in the now. All right. So strength and honor, onward and upward. That's what we live by. And we always like to say at the end of the show, get to the bag. That's what your focus is going to be on. When I say get to the bag, I'm not just talking about how the rappers talk about get to the bag and all that other stuff, just getting to the money. What I'm talking about is all the little things that I put in quotes because they're really not little. They're very significant. But all the little things that we do along the way, throughout the day, throughout the hour, throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the year, that is going to lead towards us making that impact or us making sure that we're living in our purpose as we strive for that purposeful abundance. All right. We like to say, what is our impact on the world going to be? We call it our personal legend. All right. So think about the impact that you want to make on the world. Think about what it's going to take in order for you to live in that now
in order to make sure that you're collecting those breadcrumbs along the way that are eventually going to make sure that you're on the proper trajectory to getting there. All right, that's what we focus on. We got big goals, we got big dreams, but we also understand that a dream is nothing. We got to live it. All right, we got to live it. So let's passionately pursue it. All right, so the things that are in my bag that I like to focus on: peace, love, happiness, health, wealth, and in everything we do, integrity. And something that I'm striving more for is balance, all right? Being more balanced. Now, balance is a tricky one. It can be very dangerous to be balanced. However, we still got to strive for it in a lot of different ways. We still got to strive for it. All right. And that balance, it allows us to receive new information, all these different things that we talk about. But that balance is key. That balance is key. And perhaps the best way to balance ourselves is to make sure that we have good people around us. Good people around us that, you know, that they challenge us to grow in different areas. And perhaps that's the balance that we're looking for. So on that note, I'll leave y'all with the song. And y'all have an amazing weekend. I am so grateful. I'm so grateful. Right after so when I end the show, I'm usually like sitting here like, on the last show, your boy done shed a tear afterwards. Like, I was listening to this Meek Mill, the intro, Dreams and Nightmares. I was listening to Dreams and Nightmares. I'm just going crazy in here like a tear, I was going to say damn near, but a tear that came down your boy eye, man. Because I'm telling y'all, I'm really passionate about this. I'm really passionate about this. Like, I like having conversations. I've always cared a lot about bringing different types of people together. I've been doing this my entire life. I was always the friend in the group that wanted to bring this person who would never chill with that person. And it's like, yo, we all rocking. Let's go. And then they end up becoming just as closer than I am with them in a lot of ways. But we can do this, yo. We can build. We don't have to be stuck in this war mindset. We don't have to be stuck in this mindset that just feeds the egos and pockets of elites. All right. We are the people. Yeah. We've done this before. They may try to hide the history, but we've done this before. We can live in harmony. All right. We can live in harmony. And just because we may think that the utopia is not achievable doesn't mean that we can't do better than what we're doing right now, at the very least. So y'all take it or leave it. I appreciate y'all, man. I'm telling y'all, I can sit here all day and talk to y'all, but let me shout out to Shy Boogie in the building with the fire emojis. Shout out to Steve, Good People Unite. I always gotta make sure that I'm shouting out the people that have been rocking with us for years, when we had 5, 6, 7 people on here. And you know, those questions start coming in your mind like, bro, what are you even doing this? This takes up so much time of your day. You about to just talk to 8 people. You could just hit them up on the phone and start a group chat. Like, but we locked in and it's up. It's up. All right. Let me get out of here. Y'all have an amazing weekend. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. TBGITC. It's the black guy in the corner, but they'd rather see a nigga on the corner. They say I'm stealing Nick's clips like I'm stealing Nick's chick, not knowing that I hit him first week for the lick. I said, Nick, I could post here while you post there. Run the money up, then I send it over there. Let's figure out a split that's honorable and fair. Tell me where you trying to take it, bro, I'll meet you there. 1600 Penn, Wash DC. Swear I saw the vision riding through the DMV. I envision prayers, but I could do VP, Hillbilly, Elegy. Fuck, I look like JD. Shout out my cheat code, Dave and Karen raised me. And my big bro, a nuclear family.
And they don't like that. Strong fathers in the crib, BLM for that. LBJ society created all that. Victimhood mentality, I can't embrace that. And everything they taught in school, assume it's all cap. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Ain't no introduction, just some fun facts. In case you were wondering, I am Dak.
I know you heard me hit it 3 times for Dr. Umar. Shout out to Umar, man. We ain't kicking nobody when they down. And shout out to everybody that continues to show love, support, appreciating the message that I'm giving y'all along with the bro Nick's message. We gonna keep pushing, man. And shout out to the haters too, cause y'all in the comments heavy too. y'all the ones that gave me the inspiration to create this song. They kept saying like, who's the random black guy in the corner? I am. Ooh. I love y'all, man. We out of here.